There are some players you just don't bet against in sports. There's Michael Jordan. There's Tom Brady, who maybe gets T-shirts with his number on a goat. There are plenty of players that you cannot bet against in sports. These are the 10 that I do not bet against right now. It's an incredibly subjective list. I'm not even going to define exactly what that means. We all kind of know what it means. Let's just get into it. Number 10, I'm going Cooper Kupp, who you could argue shouldn't be on this list. You could, because he's only had really that 1 year of dominance, but that year was so dominant. And last year, I thought he still showed flashes before getting injured of being that guy. I think he still is that guy. He just got hurt last year. So, yeah, I mean, definitely someone who, that playoff run, how many big moments did he have for the Rams? One I was there in person for, watching him, break my heart with getting wide open and setting up that game-winning field goal against Tampa Bay. Obviously, the Super Bowl was another big one, so definitely belongs on this list. Number 9, I'm going Davante Adams here, and this is less about the fact that, big playoff moments, maybe you could argue doesn't have the key one, although I would still argue in some of these playoff losses, he was the guy who was trying to make stuff happen, like that Tampa Bay loss in the conference championship. He was easily Green Bay's best offensive player outside of Aaron Rodgers in that performance. And then he goes to the Raiders. People are kind of saying, is he going to still be successful with them? The answer is clearly yes. So that's why I put him as, don't bet against him. In any situation, it seems like he can do well. Number 8 is Matt Stafford. He's got to be on here, right? He's kind of almost known for being clutch. That's like his thing, right? So maybe he's not the guy who game in and game out is going to constantly, put up big numbers. He puts up big numbers, but you know what I mean? He's not going to consistently be a superstar for you, but with 2 minutes, left in the game, needing a touchdown, who do you want? You want Stafford. He's one of the guys you want. He belongs on this list. I have him here at 8. Number 7, I'm going Chris Jones, which is interesting because Chris Jones actually took a long time to get his first career playoff sack. Which is just one of those weird stats, though, because I always felt like he was a really dominant player in the big moments. I always felt like he did have a key impact. He had a bunch of key plays in the first Chiefs Super Bowl that he was a part of against the 49ers, where he had a couple of blocked passes. He was definitely a key impact player. He just happened to never have a sack until this past playoff run, where it seemed like he had a ton in big moments, especially in that it was really the Cincinnati Bengals game was the one where he had the play of the game, that sack that kind of helped set up the next play was that big punt return, and the Chiefs won the game. So yeah, I'm not betting against Chris Jones anytime soon. Jalen Hurts is another guy who, I haven't bet against too much, and I'm glad I haven't because he's not shown many reasons to be bet against. Someone who, had just consistently exceeded expectations year in and year out. He wasn't, again, if you're a second-round pick, he was drafted to be a backup. That's what the Eagles said when they drafted him. Maybe they're just saying it to protect Carson Wentz, and they kind of like the idea of him maybe being a starter one day. But they drafted him to be a backup. That was the original plan. Wentz wasn't bad when they drafted him. He eventually won the job, and then people said, okay, he's a starter, but can he be like a good player? And he was good. He had a good sort of first year as a starter, got them to the playoffs. But still, it was like, okay, but, what's the ceiling for a guy like this? He then goes out and has an MVP candidate season, nearly wins them the Super Bowl. His last drive of the Super Bowl was getting 8 points on the board to tie the game versus Kansas City. They didn't win it, but yeah, I'm not betting against Hurts anytime soon. Number 5, how about Von Miller, a guy who just seemingly always shows up in the big moments, in the big games. Part of why the Bills went out and paid him. Unfortunately, he literally didn't show up in the big moments. He was injured the second half of the year, but with him healthy, maybe that'll help them in the big moments in the playoff games because he's had 2 incredible runs. The guy has a Super Bowl MVP, for Christ's sake, and he also had a huge impact with the Rams. He was a massive threat for them on the outside, and I don't know if they win that Super Bowl without Von Miller. I don't know if they do that. So he's got 2 Super Bowl rings, and they're very well earned. Number 4, I am going Travis Kelce, the elite tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Someone who, again, there's so much to like about Travis Kelce, but he's just one of those guys where if it's a big play, if it's third down and you need a catch, you just know Travis Kelce's going to come through. You just know he's going to find a way to make it happen. In that Bengals-Chiefs playoff game, a key play early on was on that 4th down and 1 when Travis Kelce was able to get open in the back of the end zone and get a touchdown there. maybe they don't win that game without Travis Kelce. We don't think about it as much now because so much happened later on in that game, but that was a key play, and he is someone who, again, he finds a way to come through. Even in that Tampa Bay blowout loss, he still had over 100 receiving yards. A lot of it was garbage time late in the game, but still, he had that moment. So, yeah, Travis Kelce, definitely someone you just don't bet against. Number 3, the guy's name is Joe Cool. How can you vote against a guy who's nicknamed Joe Cool? Joe Burrow himself, the man of many nicknames, is someone who, listen, only guy in the top 5 without a Super Bowl ring. In fact, I only have 3 players on this list that don't have Super Bowl rings altogether. It's him, it's Hurts, and it is Davante Adams. But he's came very close. And I guess you could say, hey, if you lost in a Super Bowl, can you really be the guy you don't bet against? I still think yes. I think he's had enough games where, like, I felt like going in, Bengals are going to have a really tough time winning this one, and he's just found a way to get them to win. He's a very effective player, and what he's had to do with some not great situations at times has been very impressive, and he's someone who, again, if you think, oh, last year was a fluke, the year before was a fluke, he keeps showing it's not a fluke, and has a national championship, so he has that going for him as well. Number 3 on the list. Number 2, I am going with one of the best to ever do it in any position, period, in the NFL, Aaron Donald, who's been a superstar since entering the league and has also now shown he can be a guy who can come through in the big moments. I mean, just think about that Rams, Super Bowl run, where what did he do in the conference championship? He had the game-winning, I can't remember if it was a sack or I believe it was a pressure, where he got to Jimmy Garoppolo, who got rid of the ball, but it was didn't matter as Aaron Donald was able to win the game that way. And then against the Bengals in the Super Bowl, in a second and a half, he's able to get up to Joe Burrow. I think it was like 2 seconds. What it was actually to get that immediate pressure. Burrow, if Burrow's first read was open, maybe he could have gotten it through, but that's such little time to make something like that happen. 2 basically game-sealing plays in a run where you won the Super Bowl and you're one of the best players to ever play. Yeah, don't bet against you, but there's one guy I would feel even less comfortable betting against. It's Patrick Mahomes, which feels like, to me, this feels like the obvious take, although you could argue against it, I suppose. You could sit here and say, listen, Mahomes has had some disappointing games, and he has. There's no denying it. He's first of they went back-to-back conference championships against Cincinnati. The first one, he had a disappointing second half. Part of the reason that they weren't able to win. I think you could argue his first 2 Super Bowls weren't overwhelmingly great, even though he had great moments in both of them. Certainly, obviously the 3rd and 15 play to Tyreek Hill, and then the throwing while he's doing cartwheels. It seemed like against Tampa Bay, but still, you could argue that there were some disappointing things. But man, that feels like nitpicking. When you play in so many big games, you're gonna have some disappointing performances. And for every one disappointing playoff performance he has 3 or 4, amazing ones. And one of the ones I brought up as disappointing, he had an incredible 3rd and 15-yard pass to help them win the Super Bowl and come back from down 10 with like 7 minutes left to win the Super Bowl against San Francisco. No, he's the guy you don't bet against. It's his league right now. He's at number 1. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.